What's up guys, today we got the new and long awaited ZIIGAAT Luna, and if I could describe these in one sentence, it would be fly me to the moon, baby. Starting with the overall sound, the Luna is very smooth, full sounding, slightly warm leaning, and very airy. It has this laid back approach to the vocals, to the sound. Instead of being energetic and sparkly, the Luna sounds very lush with the strings, very well extended in the cymbal crashes, and a lot of micro nuances in the air. And I knew it sounded familiar because this is just a more technical version of the original POMX, aka the giant pandas that you can't get anymore, unfortunately, because it got retuned. But yeah, Panda Gang, hop on these, insta rec for you guys. These also remind me of a warmer version of the 7 acoustic Supernovas, just as smooth and airy, but just a little bit more relaxed and warmer now. So if you always wanted to try these Supernovas but you couldn't get a hold of them because they were always out of stock or just too expensive, well, the Luna is basically a warmer version of it, and now you can get it for a much cheaper price. Same with the Dunu SA6 and the SA6 Ultra. This is just a warmer, slightly airier version of the SA6s. The SA6 is more of a neutral, like a laid back approach. This has a little bit more air, a little bit more impact, a little bit more thickness in the sound, and you can't get the SA6 Ultra anymore anyways, and the SA6 is also like $600. This is around like $200 cheaper. So yeah, if you like those, this is a pretty good side grade to those. Tech wise, the Lunas sit around the ARCANIS level, slightly behind the Supernovas and the Top Pros, but are very smooth and detailed in the treble, good resolution, good layering, solid bass texture. Not a technical monster by any means, but it is competitive for the price, and given that the tonality is so unique, it's more than enough to justify the asking price of around $379, or like I'm pretty sure you can get these for like $350 or $340 on sale. As for the vocals, the Luna is well balanced but warmer and thicker in the tonality. It's not as forward in the mix versus something like the ARCANIS. It's just not as vocal centric as that. The 1K vocal region is less forward, and the Luna has more low end and treble, which does take away the focus from the vocals. Singers just don't pop out as like forward and as clear as the ARCANIS, because this is like more well-rounded all across the board. Overall, the Luna is just not a vocal centric IEM. It has a lot more air and warmer versus the cleaner playback from the ARCANIS, which does have that goosebump treble bite. However, that doesn't mean the vocals are bad on the Lunas. They are still clear, although just thicker, never congested or nasally, but just like a little bit warmer, not shouty, again very smooth, but just not as powerful, detailed, intimate or clear as the ARCANIS or some of the other vocal focus sets like the Volume S, Studio 4, RS5 and the Oracle Mark 1s. Now personally, I do still prefer the ARCANIS more because I prioritize vocals better. It just has a more vocal centric sound on the ARCANIS, but I would put the Luna in the same tier tonality wise, just unique and different in a different way. Low-end wise, the Luna is rocking full branded BAs from SONION and Knowles. The subwoofer they're using is pretty decent. I don't notice any bass difference like quality wise versus a DD. The separation is very quick, very snappy, but there's also enough like impact and warmness to the sound to create that comfy and nostalgic feeling. Now, is this a bassy or bass-centric IEM? No, this is more warm and airy, and versus the CINCOTRES, the DOSCINCO, the ESTRELLA, the Luna obviously isn't going to, extend as deep in the sub bass. It's just not as rumbly, the quantity isn't there, the impact and slam overall is less intense, less like dynamic, you can say. And when it comes to low-end energy, those would still be better for like hip-hop, rap, EDM, movies. Anything with a lot of sub-bass, all three would work better than the Lunas. However, the Lunas are better and my pick when it comes to rock, indie, bands, metal. The mid-bass is nice and firm, it's lush, it's full body, but still quick enough in the decay, which makes it very good for those genres. You get the energy and layering for the drums, the bass guitars, the notes, and because the vocals are more pulled back, it never gets shouty, and on top of all that, you also get a smoother and airy treble extension for these cymbal crashes. So all that combined makes it an ideal sound signature for bands, rock, and metal, which leads us to scaling or how loud you can crank these. I would say a rough estimate would be around 75 to 80 dB, so like mid to mid-high volume or more depending on the type of sound. For example, slower ones, you can probably crank them up a little bit more, but they do scale pretty nice, works well with pretty much any genre, and even K-pop, J-pop sounds pretty smooth on these at mid-volume. So all-rounder, but more specialized in rock and bands. They scale around the same as the Odysseys, maybe a little bit more, again depending on the song, but very close, with the main difference being that the Luna is just smoother, more laid back, it's airier, whereas the Odysseys have more energy, more engagement, there's more bite to the vocals. The Odysseys are a little bit sharper in the transients, the sub bass goes a little deeper, the low end slams slightly harder than the Luna. Basically, in meme terms, the Luna is the chill guy meme and the Odyssey is the kid dancing in the club. Both scale pretty nice, but just depends on what you're looking for. Now, tip wise, the stock clear tips works very well. It's just smooth enough with enough dynamics, or if you want a little more impact in the low end, you can always go for the Velvet to Venus, the Final Ease, or if you want more triple energy, more sparkle, then the Triclarians works as well. Basically, any tips work on these because the sound is already refined and smooth enough. You can even, go for the Senkais or the Senkai Nobles if you want to scale it even more, but it does take away some of the air and it makes it like, smoothed out, right? But yeah, any tip would work, just mess around with it. As for some comparisons versus the Top Pro, if you want a cleaner, more crispy and sparkly presentation, a little more clarity and sharpness to the transients, then the Top Pro is still the king for that. Tech-wise, the Top Pros are a slight bump over the Lunas. The layering and the separation is cleaner. You hear the instruments a little bit better. It's just less warm, less laid back. The vocals are a little bit clearer. However, a lot of you guys said you passed on the Top Pros because of the lack of, mid bass. So for those guys, the Lunas would be a better choice and much airier and fuller in the sound. If I were to choose, I like the cozy and airy tonality on the Luna more. It fits my library better because I do have more rock bands, indie. But when it comes to pure detail, Top Pro is still king under 500. Then versus the Astrals, the Luna is less all-rounded, less sub-bass focused, less vibrant, less exciting and dynamic. The vocals are not as clear and detailed as the Astrals. But the trade-off is the Luna is just much smoother, it's warmer, it's airier, it's quote-unquote more musical, and it feels more gradual in the elevation and less like in your face. Because similar to the Odysseys, the Astral is the dancing club kid meme but with even more energy now, and the Luna again is the chill guy meme. So if you want an all-rounder with more sub-bass energy, you want more rumble and more extension for hip-hop, rap, or you need more like vocal presence and listen at mid-volume, I would say still go for the Astrals. It's also cheaper. But if you listen louder and you want a more lush and airy sound, more unique and scales better in the immersion, I would say go for the Lunas. Both are around the same level tech-wise. It just depends on the tuning, but I will say the Astrals are the better value because it is $100 cheaper, but just not as refined, smooth, and as quote-unquote unique sounding as the Lunas, because those are more meta. This is more like a different kind of thing. Then versus some vocal sets like the Studio 4, the Volume S, both of those are going to be more neutral and mid-range focused. The vocals pop out more on them. There's less air, less low end energy in general, which does highlight and pushes the mids, the artist, more forward. If you want more clarity, more power, and more detail in your vocals, those two will still be the better pick for ballads, acoustics, indie, singer-songwriter. They just feel more complete in the vocal presentation. However, the Luna is slightly more detailed and resolving than those two, and if you want a warmer and more airy sound, more I guess unique musical, then the Luna would still be a very good pick at its price. Then lastly, versus the High 4s, the T Pros, those two are going to sound more forward in the vocals. They have more bite and energy to the notes. I know some people did find the treble on those two to be a little bit hot, so in that case the Lunas would be the smoother sound, less sharp, less bassy, I guess less rumbly, not as dynamic and punchy as those. High 4 and T Pros are still going to be better for hip-hop, R&B, rap, EDM. But if you found the energy to be a bit too much on those two, the Luna is still full, still bassy enough, but just a bit warmer leaning, and now just airier and more refined. So in conclusion, the Lunas are a very competitive set. You're not going to find this kind of unique sound at its price. It does stand out from all the other metas and all-rounders that are currently out there. And this time, it comes with a better cable, an interchangeable one. So yeah, I would definitely recommend giving them a shot if you do have the cash. Anyhow, I hope this review was helpful. The giveaway is still happening, so good luck to everyone out there. But thanks again for watching, and I'll see everyone hopefully in the Monarch Mark IV video.
Shout out to Dom Q, Rark's Cat, Mystic Spoon, Attack, B Urak, Disco Scaldus, Walker Standard, Patrick, User, Contain Guava Juice Gains, Mr. Gorillas, Polly J, Giseng Young, Christopher Jackson, Henry Claudia, Son of a Horse, 777 ZK, Wizard, Obi, Triple Well Extended, Frickalicious, Ricardo, Tapis Art, Choco Norris, Tamat, Shen Bakale, FKSRG, Cousin Fat Fat, Julius, Dead Riddle, Belha, Ardmore, Nico, Parham, Nicholas, Brandon, Addy, Circle Gaming, Harder to Play, Wayu, Michael, Denir, Jacob, Vinicius, LL, Andy, Trackstar, Sammy, Fun Times, Serijib, and Peter. Thank you guys so much for the support.